Are you, dear viewer, like me, disenchanted and perhaps even a little skeptical of the utility of pedo hunters online? Has it become known to you the repeated pattern of pedo hunter and hypocrisy, pedo hunter and lies, over and over and over again? Or are you the type that has remained somehow blissfully unaware of literally everything I just said, and are here just watching the video because you saw the title? Well, in either case, allow Detective Pooh to lead the way. Yes, I have duct tape over the pipe. Yes, I fixed it with duct tape.
So that's also your penis, right?
Oh yeah, there's 3 pictures.
Whatever. Before we get into all of that, of course, allow me first to shill my subscribe star. By participating in this very exclusive club, you get to aid fellow pootards in their efforts to basically kill my liver entirely, with Wild Turkey 101 being the drink of the day. And even if you absolutely hate my guts, that's okay too, because your support leads to only one end: the destruction of my liver. Great shit. Before we get into exactly who Lio Convoy is and why anybody should care, I must first address one thing really quick first. This video, by no stretch of the imagination, is intended to be a moral post on how good or bad Lio Convoy and his associates may or may not be. I don't particularly care to engage in such moral pedantry. It's an utter waste of time for me, and basically it's a waste of time for everyone else. No video I ever make is intended to be, again, a moral post on anyone at all, period. I don't particularly give a shit about that angle. My whole point with this video is to lay out exactly everything wrong with Lio Convoy in depth. And as such, my video is very much going to be through my perspective of the events that will be laid out in this video. So, who is Lio Convoy? So the first thing that comes to mind whenever a lot of people think Lio Convoy, no, not the cartoon in the 80s, but the person that has a YouTube account that basically pedo hunts, well, first thing that comes to mind is that he's a pedo hunter. Now, he tries to say in many circumstances that he's not a pedo hunter entirely by suggesting that it's not all of his content.
I also never stated or showed that my ways of handling predators is just yelling at them on Discord and uploading it for money and for views. If it were, wouldn't that be most of mine and Peach's channel's content?
But in other conversations, he seems to make pedo hunting his entire identity.
I hunt pedophiles.
Oh, that's one.
What I do.
One of those idiots.
Idiots, huh? Go ahead, tell me how it's stupid about it.
No, he is actually a pedophile hunter. He actually hunts down.
Oh, okay.
What is consistency again?
That mild contradiction aside, for which it's one of many more to come, I want to point out as well that he is a self-proclaimed father of adults that he adopted. Now, aside from the weird parallel between him and Mama Max, you know, finding victims and moving them into your home.
Do you understand why I had to punish you earlier? Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah, why'd I have to punish you?
because I bit you.
Because you bit me?
Yeah.
Why'd you do that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you hungry from your big day today?
I want to point out that he, of course, has stated he has a clean closet. There's nothing to find in there but Gundams.
And to put this to bed, want to see what is in my closet? Gundams. Totally surprising.
And he goes on to explain in another conversation the reason why you're not going to find any dirt on him, the reason why you're not going to find any skeletons in his closet, is because he's a God-fearing man.
There is no dirt on me. Wanna know why there's no dirt on me? Because I know at the end of existence, I have to answer to a just, righteous God.
And in the spirit of science and putting to the test his claim that his closet is clean, let us first discuss his principles. Honesty. He has said in this call that he never lies.
You ever accuse me of lying
in any way, shape, or form, or you and I are going to have a much rougher relationship. There's one thing I don't do, and it's lie.
But the real question that everybody's asking is, has Lio Convoy himself personally ever lied? Well, yeah. No fucking shit. Here's a recording of him and a guy that goes by Jax.
Well, you think I'm scared of you?
Oh, you
No,
don't
but
know.
you probably
You don't
should
know
be.
yet.
I should be. Give me a few reasons.
Well, number one, I can figure out I can figure out very quickly where a kid lives by their photo, and I'm pretty sure you probably got one running around.
Oh, yeah, you come to my house. I live in a gang neighborhood and I have guns, so...
No, I'm
You
not
pull up,
worried.
I'll just shoot you.
Hey, retard.
Oh,
hey,
come here.
Remember, of course, that this kid was 15 years old. And so as a result of this, you might be thinking, well, did Lio Convoy ever show any signs of regret for this or ever, be honest about exactly what that was? No. Here is a statement he made in a YouTube chat recently.
It wasn't against the school. It was him talking about being in gangs and owning guns.
Now, ignoring the fact that that sounds completely insane and ridiculous on its face to the point of making absolutely no sense of any kind whatsoever, the reason he's saying it is because he's attempting to debunk the allegation that he called the school, falsely claiming that this kid intended to shoot up the school. But the problem is, in a conversation he had with Pizza, he proclaims that the reason that he called this kid school was because he thought that the kid would become a school shooter if he didn't intervene.
Dreadful Jax. You want to know what happened with him? He was pulled into call independently, not given any roles, to try to get him to stop beefing with some other dumb kid. I hop in the call and Jax loses his mind, threatens to shoot me, threatens to do all this. Couldn't call his parents because they're deaf, which is why he gets away with this nonsense. So instead, I just called his school. Because as you know, Pizza, we live in the United States of America, where school shootings are pretty common. And the last thing I want is to have this idiot pop off his mouth about how he's been in gangs and how he's hurt people and how he has guns and do nothing, only to find out, the kid went psycho and killed people.
A major point to point out here, too, is that the kid actually never threatened Lio Convoy until after Lio Convoy had already threatened to go to his house. Twice.
You want me to come to your house? Okay, cool. And that's what we're going to do.
It would be seemingly later in that call that Lio would bring up that kid's school seemingly out of nowhere and for no reason.
If I want to ruin your life, I'll just call your school and tell them you made the threat and you won't get anywhere in life. You want to play this game? We can play that game. Want to get a hold of people on the server? We're going to find this kid's school.
Oh.
Dead serious. We're going to find this kid's school.
Lio is straight up lying to Pizza, telling Pizza that this kid was like some kind of threat to literally anybody, completely ignoring the fact that he wouldn't have threatened anyone if it weren't for Lio threatening him first. And besides all of that, why would you call that kid's school if you didn't think that kid was a threat to the school, and then tell Pizza that you felt that the kid was a threat to the school, but then tell everybody else in a YouTube chat it had nothing to do with the school? That doesn't make any sense. If the kid is not a threat to the school, why are you calling the school? One other thing I want to point out is that Lio Convoy says this in that same chat as well.
I mean, I handled the call with Jax poorly. Been open about that, even to Jax.
And whenever I asked Jax, this is what he had to say.
So I called him up, right? One of my friends got his phone number for me. It was all that, right? Got his information, so I had to call him up. Because he kept on being a pussy, backing out to talk to me. So, so I confronted him directly, and he apologized to me. He said apparently he handled the situation wrong. He should have done that.
It's pretty sad that Jax had to go out of his way to acquire Lio Convoy's phone number just to get an apology out of Lio Convoy. However, I would make the argument that the apology probably doesn't mean anything, since Lio is continuing to lie not only about Jax, but the situation as a whole. In fact, he's lying to such an extreme that whenever he says, "I've been pretty open about that," I have to ask myself, how? I had somebody look in Senate to see when the last time Jax was ever mentioned, and to nobody's great surprise, it turns out it was the same recording I just showed you earlier of Lio talking to Pizza. At no point on his Twitter, his YouTube, or his own server does he ever make an attempt at all whatsoever to be what he describes as open about what he did to Jax. And to really hammer the point home about how much Lio Convoy has lied about this entire situation, here's what Lio Convoy himself had to say about that situation on March 1st, 2024.
The context I got
was that firearms came up only after you threatened to show up at his house. Is that true?
No, I did not threaten to show up at his house. What I was trying to ask him was, like, even if I did, how would you even know it's me? You don't know what I look like. Because he started going on about, I'll come to my house. I'm just like, even if I did, how would you even know it's me?
So basically what he's saying here is, I never threatened to go to Jax's house. Not at all. In fact, all I did was give a hypothetical, you know, because Jax just randomly had it in his head that I threatened such a thing. However, if that's a little too convoluted and complex for you to understand, do not fret, because here's Lio just straight up lying.
When you were voicing this concern, did you also tell them that you were riling the kid up and you threatened to show up to his house before he said all those things?
And you show me where I said I was going to show up. Go ahead.
I mean...
Yeah, so Lio Convoy just straight up lied just then. That's a complete lie.
Well, in the clip that I watched, it was very clear to me that you guys were having a charge back and forth, and then you were the one that made the first physical threat. I will show up at your door, and then he said, if you show up at my door, I got guns. And then that's when you started going on about all his school. So, like...
Go listen to the full call for the 4th time. If you're curious about it, go listen to the full call instead of just the random clip. Go listen to the entire thing.
Now, of course, we're not going to watch the entirety of the video here, but you can go watch the entirety of it in the link in the description. But what we are going to do is we're going to start from the top and see who threatened who first.
Oh, fucking, you come to my house, I'll put a bullet in your skull, just saying. Oh, come here, you're one time, fucking pussy. I'm a retard, my name's Lio! Yeah, I accept that, I accept that. But Jesus fucking Christ, man, people kept going after me. And just fucking, your friend Russell and your fucking little retarded group, man? Holy shit, they are fucking annoying.
If we're gonna go by your logic here, they're not my responsibility.
Yeah, I'm going by your logic. They're your responsibility, fucktard.
Jax, you know that Nora can't control everybody, right?
And look. Yeah, Nora, you wanna know something fucking funny? You wanna know something super fucking funny, man? You have no balls.
Jax,
shit, man.
shut up!
What the fuck's Lio?
Jax, how old are you?
How's
I'm
he
Lio,
involved?
and how old
15.
are you?
15, man. What, you think I'm scared of you?
Oh, you
No,
don't know.
but you probably
you don't
should
know
be.
yet.
I should be. Give me a few reasons.
Well, number one, I can figure out I can figure out very quickly where a kid lives by their photo, and I'm pretty sure you probably got one running around.
That right there, my friends, is a threat. A 36-year-old man threatening to acquire the address of a 15-year-old, or really anyone, should not be interpreted as anything other than a threat. It is not unreasonable for Dreadful Jax, in this situation, who is 15 years old, to assume that Lio Convoy just threatened to acquire his address to come to his home. I would make that assumption, and many people would, especially if you don't even know the motherfucker who brought that up in the first place. This was very clearly the first time that Lio had ever met Jax. Jax even saying earlier, "Who's Lio?" Lio made the threat first. However, some of you might still contest this, trying to argue some sort of nuance. So let us continue.
Oh, yeah, you come to my house. I live in a gang neighborhood and I have guns, so...
No, I'm not
pull
worried.
up, I'll just shoot you.
Hey, retard.
Oh, come here, you're one time, fucking pussy. I'm a retard, my name's Lio!
This is literally fatherless activity. Your dad ain't at home, is he?
Oh, yeah, I have milk in my fridge, actually, so... Unlike you. Look,
You
I
cut out
understand
there.
your
Can you
dad
repeat
left
yourself?
you at a young age and no one loves you, man. And look, I know you're
Really?
worth nothing,
My dad
completely
left me.
nothing.
Projection.
Oh, yeah.
Projection is fine.
Son, you're projecting. You're projecting and you're very bad at it. So why don't you sit down, calm down, and we can talk. Okay?
I don't know how he's involved in the situation. You literally threatened me. Look, you
I'm
come
involved
here,
because I choose to be. You can sit there and you can listen.
you come to my house, I'll put a bullet in your skull, just saying.
You're not going to put anything in anywhere. Your airsoft guns don't scare me, son. Sit down and be quiet.
I actually have guns fucked hard.
I'm not worried about some dumb 15-year-old making threats about firearms. If I want to ruin your life, I'll just call your school and tell them you made the threat, and you won't get anywhere in life. You want to play this game? We can play that game.
Note that Lio actually said he's not scared of some kid with guns. Yet, as I showed you earlier, he said himself just recently that he called the school because he had guns. Which is it, Lio? Were you worried about that or not worried about that?
Oh, damn. Wow, you're threatening to ruin a 15-year-old's life.
You.
Fucking
Hold on,
loser
hold
over
on,
here.
hold on.
Hey, how's your mom's fucking basement, man? Oh, yeah, say it to my fucking face.
You are.
Oh, 35-year-old.
You want me to come to your house? Okay, cool.
I'm so scared.
And that's what we're gonna do.
Alright, you want
No,
to come? You want
no,
to come to the house?
serious. I'm dead serious. Here's what's
Serious?
gonna happen.
I will have a shotgun hooked up to your fucking head. You really want that? I
No,
will
you
blow your
don't.
brain.
Yeah, so I think that's enough. I think you get the point. He literally just said that he's gonna go to that kid's house.
Hold on. It doesn't matter if it's in self-defense or not. Do you think that it's acceptable for a 15-year-old to talk about shooting people and being in gangs?
For Lio to further downplay this by claiming that it doesn't matter if the kid was claiming self-defense or not, he's still talking about killing people, is just another example of him trying to water this entire thing down and dismiss it entirely in the effort of burying that kid's head in the sand even further. And I understand that this kid in this call was cringy as hell, but he was 15 years old and had every right to be cringy as hell. And you know what else he had the right to do? He had the right to use a weapon in self-defense had Lio come to his door. So again, does the apology really mean anything whenever you're continuing to lie about the person you apologize to and the situation you're allegedly apologizing about? And the reason why you went through all that effort to not be honest about it, not be transparent about it, etc., is because you were trying to avoid your number one most espoused principle that you have: accountability. And while we're on the subject of accountability, allow me to move on from Jax to a much more recent example. Very recently, Lio Convoy uploaded a video onto YouTube, a 3-hour long video, where near the end of the video, he addresses some flack he received for how he treated somebody who is very, very mentally ill in a Discord call that was recorded and uploaded to the internet. And he addresses this controversy by issuing an apology to Rosa, the mentally ill person that he was bullying.
This is a call that happened over a year ago and is only being brought up now because of freaks and dishonest actors, one of which just admitted that they did so for money.
Opening an apology up by going on the attack, such a great strategy, works every time.
So here's the long and short of it, and it was addressed in full last year. The way that call devolved and the ableist, awful things I said and allowed was not okay. It was not acceptable. It was wrong, and I apologize for that. I was in control of that room and that call at the time, so the responsibility is mine. The day after that call, Rosa was sent direct apologies, and the entire way we run calls was completely restructured. Such as the fact that the audience has no ability of their own to jump into a call, and any mockery of people over things they can't control are condemned and punished. Their purpose is to be as productive as possible. Longtime listeners will notice that the unpleasant language I used to have to censor out no longer exists in the past year's videos. That's because I worked to remove it from my lexicon. It takes time, as anything you've been doing for 3 decades may. But they're not words I've been using any further. Ponder herself called out that behavior directly in that call. She's still in Senate. There's a reason for that. Because change can happen. And has.
He is trying really hard to fortify this idea that everybody is fucking stupid for not noticing that he's already changed. But then we get to the part that I think is the most troubling of this apology.
The problem here, though, is that the people aren't interested in accountability. Not only because that was already taken care of a year ago, but also because they overlooked the fact that Rosa enabled a predator, and these people willfully overlook how that predator's victim, Indo, was affected not only by the lack of action, but even today by the willful weaponizing of this call. That's because the people just don't actually care, to the point that they're lying about Rosa's mod position in that server. Yes, she was a mod. Yes, she fully knew what happened. Not that it excuses how he acted, but lying about things isn't helping. I'll be transparent with my audience because I owe them that, but I won't be preached morality to by dishonest snakes that force kids to write their trauma, abuse their partner, or are zoo and pedo apologists.
Why on earth would you construct an apology that starts by attacking people and ends by attacking people? And the fact is, whenever you compound onto that, like shit that just isn't true, that doesn't make you look that great. But the worst part about this is you're completely disregarding the main criticism of you. You see, in that call, you explicitly state that this person is so clinically retarded that they required a handler to survive.
She doesn't want her mommy, who is her caretaker, who should be watching what she does on the internet because this person's in their 30s and incapable of taking care of themselves. No, that's not the focus. The focus is we got to make sure that dumb broad doesn't have any accountability when children have been hurt. God forbid.
And then proceeded to say some of the worst shit I've ever heard you say to anybody.
The fact that you rate Star Wars and people being mean about it higher than the safety of children tells me you need to remove yourself from the census immediately. And I know you're not very smart. You're not going to pick up on that. But you know what? The YouTube censors won't either. So it's all good. I told you you're done when I say you're done, and you're going to abide by that because God knows your parents failed to raise you with any common sense. If I had a child that did the stunt you did, oh, buddy, they wouldn't find them. They would not find them. That's one thing I've absolutely picked up from my old man. If you pull some stupid crap like that, they might find your body in a marsh about 100 years from now.
People were criticizing you because it looked like you were effectively kicking the mental health equivalent to a cripple. All this because a mod in a Discord server that was so mentally deficient that required a caretaker didn't remove an alleged pedophile from a Discord server fast enough for your liking. However, the reason I bring all of that up is to bring up how entirely hypocritical it is for somebody to go on and on and on and on about accountability and then give the most non-apology humanly possible. Instead of just making an apology, giving absolutely no excuses of any kind, you open the apology going on the attack and end the apology by going on the attack even further. That isn't an apology. In fact, what that is, the only reason you would even make a non-apology like that is if you were trying to avoid accountability for your actions. Which I gotta say is pretty goddamn cowardly.
And if there's anything I can't stand, it's a coward.
You see, if you talk to Lio Convoy enough, you'll find a pattern of him talking about how it is he doesn't like cowards, and how he's a brave man, essentially. He admires bravery. But this is the same guy who will block numerous people he's in controversies with on the internet. He will not only do that, but make an entire list of people other people should block. Put a gun where your mouth is and fucking shoot. But I think the most cowardly thing that Lio Convoy has done to date was agree to have a debate with a YouTuber that goes by Zay and then completely puss out of that debate. And then make a video saying that the reason he's not debating him is because he thinks he's a creep.
Zay wanted me to come on to stream with them so they could press me on some things. But after looking into all of this and seeing what they'll excuse and whom they'll collude with, I can easily say I'm just not interested. Don't really want to hang around creeps.
Well, that's weird, Lio. If you think you're so morally correct, if you think you're in the right, you would be debating these people. You would absolutely debate them. Because you would be in the right. You would not block me. You would not block all the people I associate with. You wouldn't block Zay, and you wouldn't fucking cower from a debate with Zay. You would have absolutely jumped on every opportunity to debate all the people that you think are inferior to you morally, and you don't. The excuse that they're creeps or zoophiles, you know, the stuff that you largely just make up entirely, those reasons will only last for so long. You saying this stuff over and over and over again with no confrontation and no evidence of any kind can only last so long. Eventually people are going to start asking questions. And pretty goddamn good ones. And the only conclusion that these people are going to come to is that Lio Convoy is a coward. Another principle that Lio Convoy alleges to have is a caring about the victims, even going as far as to say that if you don't care about the victims, that, well, you shouldn't be in predator hunting.
You have to care about the people you're helping. And just as importantly, you have to operate ethically.
That sounds both obvious and reasonable. But again, I must ask, has Lio Convoy's actions been consistent with this alleged principle? Well, one example that a lot of people will immediately point to is Lio Convoy helping Jordan, aka Mintheart, and eventually moving Jordan into his home. Jordan was in an abusive household where Jordan's stepfather was molesting Jordan. In response to this, of course, Lio Convoy promoted a GoFundMe to get Jordan out of the household and eventually, inevitably, would move Jordan into his home. A lot of people look at that situation and view that as a success, view him as a caring person, in fact going as far as to say that it was very kind of him to aid and adopt a victim of such a heinous crime. But in the end, there were a plethora of issues with this that proved very, shall I say, contradictory, and we'll of course get more into those a little bit later. For right now, it's important to note that since then, Lio Convoy has completely disowned Mintheart/Jordan. However, is there another example of Lio Convoy contradicting his alleged principles in such a spectacular fashion? In fact, yes. The entire Spoctor Tech drama was a very interesting moment that a lot of people talked about whenever it was happening. You see, what had happened is that Spoctor Tech, when he was 16 years old, was in a communication with a 13-year-old where he would eventually receive pornographic material from said 13-year-old. And whenever I say pornographic material, I mean of the 13-year-old, to be more precise there. Spoctor Tech, a year later, would disengage with that behavior that he was engaging with that 13-year-old, and essentially just forget about the entire thing. So much so that, again, as he says himself in the following clip, he would stumble upon the flash drive he had those pornographic images on, and would ask himself why he still even had the drive.
It's all gone. I don't want it anymore. I don't want to associate with it anymore. It's disgusting shit that even I look back on and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
You know? Especially after I turned 18, I was like, I had the drive. It was like sitting on my counter and I looked at it and I was like, why do I still fucking have this?
No, I am not, in fact, defending Spoctor Tech, at all. He said a lot of really stupid crap that led into this drama, and in fact, if anything, he dug his own grave at the end of the day. However, what I am doing is I'm mocking the absurdity of this statement.
Forget asking why he saved it at all. The fact that he waited until after he was a legal adult to destroy it is enough of a problem.
He had child porn regardless of how old he was when he threw it away. Why does it matter if Spoctor Tech was 18 or not when he got rid of it? And beyond that, Lio, you even acknowledge that kids send each other this shit, right?
I know kids are going to trade this stuff with each other. They shouldn't, but they do. And if you're a child and you have done stuff like this, knock it off.
Do you have any idea how many people, likely even around you, have quote-unquote child porn probably on a phone somewhere that they fucking forgot about because 2 years ago when they were 16, they got a nude from a 15-year-old? Because unless Spoctor Tech, and I don't know if he did or not, kept the flash drive on purpose to keep those pornographic images, you don't really have much in the way of an argument here. In fact, dear viewer, you could completely disagree with my take on this and disregard the fact that it's relatively and obnoxiously normal for minors to engage in this behavior, and then just say, well, that shit's fucking degenerate and they shouldn't be doing it at all in the first place. And you know what? I would completely agree. But you know what's more degenerate than that? Brion
used his platform and his position as a large content creator to get in contact with someone he first characterized as a victim, would later characterize as a CP distributor he had a crush on. This would be none other than the 15-year-old girl herself that you heard earlier in this video, proclaiming that Brion tried to groom her. Stating that he has a crush on her and that she's a CP distributor is not the extent of this. Brion would then go on to make statements that he proclaims are jokes, in a clear reference to her mental illness and self-harming habits. He would say that he would let her drink his blood. He would make a statement saying that he had a crush on her and that she was a CP distributor, that someone else could have her though because he was busy with work, implying that if he wasn't busy with work, he'd be interested in a relationship or something along those lines with this 15-year-old girl. My issue with the high school context talking point is that we're far away from a high school context. These are two people, one's 18, almost 19, working, paying taxes for nearly a year. The other is 15, in school. Brion lives in Detroit fucking Michigan. This girl, she lives in Australia. There are no laws that even protect Brion in this scenario, not even by a stretch of the imagination, and Brion very clearly expresses that he knows what he is doing is fucking wrong, because when she brings up his age as a clear insinuation of her discomfort, he tries to reassure her and justify it.
Can't imagine most of you would disagree with me whenever I say that is significantly worse in every way than the Spoctor Tech situation I previously described. And what was Lio's response to Brion? He softballed the fuck out of it.
So, Brion, all of 18 years old and no functional brain to show. See, sometimes you don't really need people your age to come in and talk about your nonsense. Sometimes you just need the old man to come in and shake you until you straighten up. That or tell you the benefits of Metamucil.
Up until this point, I was under the thought process that Lio Convoy just didn't go after Brion, in fact softballed the shit out of him, because Brion has a couple 100,000 subscribers. But after looking into the Spoctor tech and a plethora of other examples a little bit more, I came to realize that it really had nothing to do with that at all. What it had to do with was the plain and simple fact that Brion just didn't go after Hopeless Peaches.
For a community that's so well known for picking apart every piece of someone's argument, it seems they either miss or choose to miss the actual important things. Like this.
And you put way too much focus on the wrongs of others when you should have also looked at yourself as well. It's a pattern people have seen. Someone upsets you, you run away. You vent the frustrations in an irresponsible way. Stop doing it. Stop that. You have a lot of real personal issues that you need to iron out with yourself before you consider making personal relationships with people in the community again. You need to find people that will like you for who you are. Someone that doesn't know you as Hopeless Peaches. I said this before, but you're absolutely broken as a person, and you don't know how to treat people well because of it.
Here. Right here. This is the moment Spoctor's career should have ended.
Lio Convoy only cares about the victims, so long as Hopeless Peaches isn't the recipient of some YouTuber's criticism. But hey, if you have a better explanation for why Lio Convoy went harder on Spoctor but softballed Brion, well, hit me up in the comments section, I guess. And besides, according to Lio himself, that's really the only real reason he has a grudge against me at all in the first place anyway.
I had people like Vlad making statements and claims that I sexually assault my family members. And no, I don't find that as a joke. And I'm not going to accept, haha, we were having a fun time, guys. No, I don't accept that.
Whenever he says Vlad, he's referring to me. Long story, old alias, I digress. This guy LARPs as the father of Hopeless Peaches so hard that he took my and other people's jokes of him fucking Peaches as somehow an incest joke. So now that we've addressed his principles and how inconsistent they seem to be, let us go into his tactics. One thing that isn't often talked about is Lio's tendency to acquire doxing information on other people. So, an example of that would be that one of his critics was Grimskull. And how he reacted, allegedly, to this was either himself personally or having other people have a pizza delivered to Grimskull's door. Pizza bombing him.
Well, first it was a pizza, which I laughed off. Then it was a note on my door. Wait, they bought you pizza? No, they did the cash-only thing. So they ordered a pizza and tried to make me pay for it, and did the knock as hard as you can bit on the instructions.
However, there's also this, could be a coincidence, there's also this circumstance where in a live stream with me, Lio Convoy says this: if I do get doxxed, I don't really care that much because I'm boring. I haven't been convicted of a single crime in my entire fucking life, so it'd be like a complete waste of time, but why enable that?
So, I mean, you might get some free pizza out of it.
But, however, bearing in mind the fact that we know that Lio Convoy called the school of a 15-year-old kid and admits it, somehow acquiring that kid's information, and also ignoring the fact that Lio Convoy publicly apologized for asking if anybody had the doxing information on minors that had entered his server.
And I was out of pocket being so brazen about asking for the kid's info. It came off as weirdo behavior when I was worried. That's my fault, not Peaches.
And ignoring the further allegation that Kumo was swatted.
Lio sent the cops to my house, I think. You're joking. I had 5 cops roll up and peer through my windows with flashlights. I asked them if I was safe and if everything was okay, and they said a man called and said someone was here who shouldn't be, and that they need someone removed from the property. I explained that this is my mom's house, and she's asleep in another fucking city, and I hadn't heard anything from her since noon today when she left. They realized it was a harassment call, apologized, and left. You remember that call I mentioned, where Call Me Nil was badgered? I was friends with Nil for years, and toward the end they guilt-tripped Nil into giving them... I'm sorry, they coerced Nil into giving them his docs information? Holy shit.
This all could be a set of coincidences.
There is no such thing as a coincidence.
And now that we have all of that out of the way, allow me to go into some of the dramas and accusations associated with Lio's children.
I actually try to help actual victims of child predation, hence the kid down the hallway.
And to make things short and sweet, because I'm not wanting to delve too far into the calls and everything like that, because I think Kumo did a pretty good job himself, I want to address what exactly is going on there.
Lio, after he had yelled at me and disowned me, he hung up the call with Peaches, got up from the couch, walked right into my face, and said that if I ever disrespected his wife again, that I could meet him outside, and we could settle it like men. Basically, because Texas is a mutual combat state, that it'd be fine to beat me up. Even though it would not be mutual combat, because I would not want to fight him, or anyone for that matter.
When you said you disrespected his wife, wait, what did you do?
So, I had been going through a big bout of depression. It's not really an excuse, I recognize that. But I hadn't been doing my fair share of chores, and she came and she asked me why I wasn't. And I knew that if I said that I was depressed and not having a good time mentally, that I would get told, that's not an excuse, you still need to, do your part, which is fair. And I quite frankly didn't want to hear it, because it would just upset her and upset him, but also staying silent would upset her and upset him. And so it was a lose-lose situation in my mind. And I decided to stay quiet and not answer her. So outcome was the same no matter what I said. Because when I told them, like when they asked me again that night, I told them why. And I got the exact answer I knew I was going to get. And he saw that as disrespectful, that I didn't answer her question.
And just real quick, I think it's important to point out that the testimony given by Jordan there seems to put a previous clip I showed you earlier in the video in a whole new context.
If I had a child that did the stunt you did, oh buddy, they wouldn't find them. They would not find them. That's one thing I've absolutely picked up from my old man. If you pull some stupid crap like that, they might find your body in a marsh about 100 years from now.
Now, the reason I point this out is because Lio, you see, he has a great response to this. Are you ready for this? It is amazing. It's a doozy.
There were several instances of abuse in the household from Jordan to other people. Jordan was often emotionally and verbally abusive to the wife and I. And Jordan only came to me when they were having a rough time and needed like emotional support. Jordan, unfortunately, has a problem with a victim complex. They have to be a victim of something all the time, or they're not happy. Jordan did several shots of abuse, emotional and mental abuse, to both me and my wife. They also did it to people like Peaches regularly.
No, you. That's all that is. Lio Convoy did not make his children his priority. The only thing he ever made his priority was content.
Was it Gravy?
Is this a serious question?
Time you could have said something.
You're a
Thank
fucking
you, Jay.
adult. You should
have
know
known better, Ichabod, and not only that, you know about my past. I told you. We've gone through it several times on Barrel. We have gone through it every single time there has been a stream about a fucking pedophile. And still, why? Why would you do that? You know everything. You have known it basically since the day I fucking came into Barrel and you were there. Why?
That is not the first video where Jordan was forced to confront the very person being accused of grooming or orbiting, etc. One of the things I want to correct about Jordan that I got wrong is I said that Jordan was okay with all of this stuff, and Jordan told me that it was absolutely untrue. There is no parent on the planet, none, that would sit there and go, my kid was groomed, so I'm going to have a live stream with my kid and the groomer. No parent is going to look at their kid, see that it's being orbited by a creep, and then be like, let's go make content on YouTube about it. You guys can bicker and argue. That doesn't happen. And the reason I bring that up is because, you see, Hopeless Peaches is Lio's favorite. Okay, it's very obvious. Everybody that you talk to can tell that Hopeless Peaches is definitely Lio's favorite. There is no question that Hopeless Peaches is Lio's favorite. In fact, she's so much the favorite, she's the last one. He literally sacrificed his other 3 kids in favor of Hopeless Peaches. So, the question remains, why does that matter? Well, the reason it matters, my young detectives, is, well, Hopeless Peaches has found herself in quite a pickle.
Fruitcake Club, or the FCK, was a group of art commentary cows, or people that were around the art commentary community. Some of the art community's favorite art tards, or even the commentary communities, were in this group, like Nezzy Monster, Mad Libs, Miss ZZ, Doodle Tones, Dumbsville, Toby Majestic, Nani, The Name's Junkie, Fuchsia Butter, Just a Robot, Hopeless Peaches. The abandoned account is Hopeless Peaches. Here's a screenshot showing the account before she changed the username to abandoned account, and here's an interaction confirming that the account is Peaches. Nezzy Monster was 20, Hopeless Peaches was 19 to 20, Toasty Vanilla was 18, and up until April of 2020, he was still in high school. Mimi Diggs was 17, Slimmers was 15, Teddy the Draws was 16, James was 16, LS Mark was 17, Omega the Slime, I believe, was 16, The Name's Junkie was 22. Point is, there were many adults and a couple of minors. These people were aware of their ages. It was a topic brought up multiple times on the server. On Peach's first day in the server, she was told that they shared porn in the server, a server which she knew had minors. At the very least, she knew Slimmers was there, and she knew Slimmers was 15. We saw her acknowledge that the other adults were spamming porn into the Gamer Zone chat, tagging Peaches, and we saw that Peaches entered a voice call where Toasty Vanilla was beating his meat because he either didn't know he was in the call or forgot that he was in there. And yet Peaches says that she didn't interact enough to know a lot.
So that was a fucking lie.
Now Peaches could make the argument that she left the FCK server because of this, because she did leave early 2020, only to be reinvited by Toasty Vanilla on June 1st of 2020. In the words of Lio, that's pretty interesting, fascinating even. I have a couple of questions just before Peaches rushes to do one of her various performances, whether it be playing victim to this video, crying wolf, or some bullshit effort to take accountability. February 4th of 2020. Hopeless Peaches joined a VC with Toasty jerking it. That didn't cross a line for her. 2 days later, on the 6th, they spammed the server with porn whilst tagging Peaches, and that didn't cross a line for her either. Neither of those things obviously didn't bother her, considering she went on to draw her and Toasty Vanilla naked in bathing one another in April, and returned to the FCK server in June from Toasty inviting her again. So I'm curious about what actually truly crossed a genuine real line for Peaches, not the fake bullshit moral standards she peddles on YouTube. I want to know what really caused her to drop Toasty, but we will likely never know.
It looks pretty bad for Hopeless Peaches here, and for Lio to say that she didn't know or to cast doubt on whether or not she knew, well, that's yet another lie.
He's going to try to use cherry-picked examples to try to frame it as Peaches being okay with degeneracy being shown to kids.
I'm going to break this claim down because Lio and the Senate keep misrepresenting it to claim that it's a false accusation or misrepresentation. Peaches knew that Slimmers was 15 in September of 2019. Here's a clip of that.
Well, a YouTuber by the name of Madam has recently been accused of stealing art from a 15-year-old artist called Slimmers.
Now, Peaches was in the server and was aware of the porn. She acknowledges the porn when she said so much porn after they spam tagged her with the porn. She was also aware of at least one minor, that being Slimmers, who was in the server. She fucking screenshotted. She posts a screenshot of the Gamer Zone chat inside the Gamer Zone chat that has Slimmers in the screenshot because she scrolled back through. This was when she was talking about how she walked in on a VC when Toasty Vanilla was jerking off, and she took a screenshot of Toasty telling Slimmers that. So Lio, you want us to believe that Peaches didn't know that there was at least one minor in this server that she knew they shared porn in. A server which she returned to, by the way. Oh, you are not going to believe this. I have a treat for you guys. And by a treat, I mean something that Lio is not going to like one bit, but you guys are going to get a kick out of it. So I reached out to Slimmers, who's on a new account because she's moved on from her old alias. And I requested that we have this conversation on her old account so that the Senate and the art community and Lio can't say that I'm just talking to somebody else and saying that it's Slimmers. So here's the conversation we just had on her account confirming that this is Slimmers. She said, okay, I'm here. Did Peaches know you were in the FCK server? Did either of you interact? She says, yes, we 100% have. We especially interacted in calls on the server too, and she would occasionally hop in. We have literally talked back and forth through there, and at some point she literally trusted me to be on her personal friend server when the whole Kai and Omnia drama was happening. thing. She then sends a screenshot, a different version of the one that I previously showed you all, where Peaches is screenshotting her and Toasty's conversation about the whole jerking off in VC situation. She says, like, come on. My name was literally everywhere in that server. There was no way she didn't know I was on there. This literally has to be damage control.
And at this point in the video, you might be asking, why are we talking so much about Hopeless Peaches and some shit she did in some degenerate server? And what the fuck does this have to do with Lio Convoy at all? Well, he knew about it. For months.
I pushed those silly ideas of Lio being a snake aside and decided in October that I would invite him, even offering to do so, but he was ghosting me. Then I was randomly removed from Senate, and he later unadded me. As my series began releasing, there seemingly was no issue. That was until February, when I announced an additional episode on the FCK server. On February 25th, a day before my premiere, Hopeless Peaches puts out a Twitter thread to take accountability, leaving quite a few things that happened in the FCK server out of the thread, like the fact that she made a joke about how the porn being sent in could result in exposing them, or that she entered a voice call with Toasty Vanilla jerking off, and that she later made a drawing of her and Toasty Vanilla bathing one another, and that she returned to the FCK server later when Toasty Vanilla invited her again. It was this same day that Lio admitted in the DMs of someone named Laka that he had the FCK chat logs for months, and told them that I was withholding them from everyone. In fact, he messaged Laka because his spy informed him of Laka joining the FCK server. Lio himself was not in it, having these chat logs and a spy in the server, and the spy in the server no doubt would have told him that I invited 2 other people in the server to help collect evidence, and yet he's claiming I'm withholding it from everyone. Since Lio's had these logs for months, by his own fucking admission, a few questions come to mind. He's accusing me of withholding them from the public, presumably, yet he's had the logs for months and never released them himself. By his own fucking logic, he's done the exact same thing. And if Peaches was truly interested in that taking accountability bullshit, why did she wait until a day before my premiere? Am I to believe that Lio never mentioned and discussed the FCK chat logs with his favorite adopted daughter, Peaches? Oh wait, no, his only adopted daughter now. The whole time he had these logs? And if that's true, why didn't he? Since he cares so much about accountability. Any excuse he could offer only prompts a new question. It was the same day of my premiere, the 26th of February, and a video on some random fucking issue that Doodletones had with someone else, that Lio, of course, quickly rushed a segment at the end to discuss me and the FCK shit.
The great moralizing pedo hunter Lio Convoy, the same man who threw an absolute psychotic fit because Spoctor as a minor received a fucking pornographic image of another minor, is also the same guy who seems to be so okay with Hopeless Peaches participating in a server with minors in it, a server that seems to do nothing all day but post porn, said nothing.
What is consistency again?
And to really hammer this point home, here's some beautiful irony.
If somebody in your circle has heavy accusations against them, you have an obligation, to yourself if nobody else, to look into it.
So at this point, a really good question arises. Why would Lio Convoy go out of his way to defend Hopeless Peaches this fucking hard? Why would he basically cancel Spoctor Tech for merely criticizing Hopeless Peaches? Why would he go after me for making jokes about Lio and